Hello, welcome to Healing Sessions with Maxie Njuguna. In this podcast, we have an opportunity to connect with you through candid conversations. We are going to have experts coming through to speak to us in matters of healing, matters of trauma, every aspect that we may be going through, and those deep places where we have been wounded, but taking the journey of healing together. Join us in every episode, and please also go ahead and subscribe, like, share, and distribute this content to someone who needs it as we walk through this journey of healing together. Healing Sessions with Maxie Njuguna. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Healing Sessions with Maxie Njuguna. Again, we are so honored that you could join us through this conversation. This is a place where we have candid conversations with our guests and experts who come to speak to us in matters of healing. This is an opportunity for us to process the different kinds of pain that we might be going through, whether it is traumatic experiences, loss of loved ones, broken relationships, and all these realities of pain that come and end up being wounds upon our lives. But guess what? We have an opportunity to process them together and to ascribe ourselves to this journey of healing. And in this episode, I'm so honored and blessed and privileged to welcome one of my friends who is also my young sister. We have a gap of about 10 months, 10 years, 6 months, almost 11 years. And she's here so that we can have a conversation with her. So please welcome. Kitambo alikuwa anaitwa Yumasha, but now she has changed. Joy Masharia. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
which
you
color
very
is
much.
this? Is this pink?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Karibu sana.
Thank
We are
you.
going to have a candid conversation. By the way, Joy is my real sister, like blood sister, like not like sister in the Lord, like sister. And I want us to have a real candid conversation today because there are so many people who are in this whole sibling cycle and they are trying to navigate what has happened within their families through the journey of trying to deal with people who have departed. And for this episode, I want us to focus about growing up in a family without a father figure. That's a topic that I want us to focus on because that's some of the experiences that we have gone through, and to connect with the people who are part of this podcast community to also see how they can be able to grow and journey through their healing process. So karibu sana.
Asante
Before we
sana.
start, for every guest who comes to this show and podcast,
Yes.
we are going to start with a quick game. So I'm going to mention a word, and every word I mention, you're going to give me an equivalent word that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Not thinking about it. It has to be quick, in less than 2 seconds.
The first thing that comes to mind.
The first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Microphone.
Check.
Wow. Podcast.
Hi guys.
Healing.
Service.
Joy.
Mudhoni Masharia.
Family.
Feud.
Feud.
Family.
One more time. Family.
Feud.
Church.
Lights.
Matatu.
Anguka nayo.
Kenya.
Gen Z.
Gen Z.
Occupy.
Hashtag. Don't say that. You don't have the rights.
The church has left the building. Yeah.
All right, so let's go on and talk about this important topic, especially for siblings, a brother and a sister, or a family context that has gone through the loss of a father figure. So what's the first memory that you have about your father?
That's very interesting. It's very... Well, it takes me back. I think my first memory if it is to speak about him, would be the time that we were told that he had passed on. I think that comes because I was quite young. I don't think we had that much of interaction.
How young were you?
I think I was five. Yeah, I was five. I was five. I remember we were with mom, and she actually reminds me of this story that we were with her, and we were talking. We were just having a nice time in the house. I don't remember which day exactly it was, but we were in the house. Then she gets a call, and she tells me that, you know what, dad has passed on. So what she told me, she didn't even tell me that dad has passed on. She told me that dad has gone to be with the Lord. So I told her, okay, see, that's okay because he's coming back.
Yeah.
See, if you're going somewhere, you come back. So I didn't understand what really she was saying. But then now getting later to process that actually it's a finality thing. It's something that's actually final, that he's gone to be with the Lord. But I think some of the other memories that I have is quite just looking at the photos that recently I was looking at the photos that we have in the house. And I think I'm trying to construct a memory around that. But faintly, the one that comes to mind is probably that time when I was told that he's no more. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the time when we were in the mortuary. First of all, you are a very heavy baby.
My apologies.
Wow, this hand is still healing. Carrying you through that period, and one of the things you loved is you loved to call my name. So you wouldn't say Max, you'll say Tat.
That.
And then you loved watermelon, and you were a very heavy baby. So those are the three things that, okay, and qualify your time at that time.
Yeah.
But really, do you remember the time when we were in the mortuary and I was carrying you at that point, and we are standing next to that casket. Do you remember that point?
I might have a faint memory of that, but I remember all through that day, there was just so much was running through my mind. I couldn't understand what actually we were doing, why everyone was crying, because it hadn't dawned on me yet that he'd actually passed on, and this is like my dad that we are burying today. So I didn't understand that whole thing, because I think most of the time I was just I was there physically, but I think in the mental space as a child I wasn't really engaged as much. But I remember I slept a lot that day. Yeah.
At what point then, because that's an important part of it, that when we lose people at a tender age, we are there physically when it's happening, but our mental capacities, even psychologically speaking, we've not been able to have a chance to process that event.
Yeah.
So at what point in your life did you get to a place where you came into being with that loss? At what point, or when did you now begin to have those internal discoveries that, hey, this person is no longer in my life?
I think it was gradually, especially as I was turning into my teenagehood years. That's when things would come to light. Because now you see, I'd spend time with guys who had complete families. So I'd look around and I'm like, okay, this is not what I see at home. So I don't understand what's going on. But most times it was just, I'd actually, let me be honest, I think from 5 to 10 or 12, around there, I was just cruising through life. So I didn't have that much of touch with the fact that there was already a gap in my life. But I think when I got into my 13th year of living, oh my goodness, yeah, my 13th year, that's when things began to actually come to light, because that's when now that's when I began going through adolescence. So there was so much that was going on. There's an emotional part, there's a physical part of growth, there's everything that's going on around. And that's how I actually came to realize that there is actually this gap in my life. And I look at my friends, okay, this one has a dad. So she comes and tells me stories. Oh, so you were where with my dad on Sunday? So I'm like, okay, I don't have that in my life, so there must be something that's wrong.
Did you
around
ever
me.
feel alone?
Oh, well, I think there are times I did. There are times I would. But most times I think it was just trying when it was in a space where I was comparing myself with someone else who had what I thought was complete. Because you see, there's now the part of me looking at myself and thinking, yes, I have this gap in my life, but then looking at someone else and seeing this one looks like they are having their life well. Like they have a dad, they have a mom, they have everything going on well for them. So I think that's what should be what I have, but I don't have it.
And that's a possibility of these two instances.
Yeah.
Because for me, at that point, I was about almost, a high school student.
Yeah.
So I've grown up to the point where I can be able to understand the event. So my journey to process it began internally. But for you, because you are still growing into it, it was now the external environment when you observe other people in what you would call a conducive family setup that triggered you to think and to start to process that this is something that I miss. And that's a powerful thing about how we journey through healing. There are some of us who the trigger was internal. You're already in one with those emotions. But there are those of us who will look at an external environment and realize that there is a lack upon my life because they didn't have the advantage of time.
Yeah.
I had the advantage of time. You are growing up.
Yeah.
But then now the immediate environment begin to pinpoint you and lead you to a place where you needed to process that which you are going through.
Yeah.
So how are you able to, and how are you processing that aspect of loss till now? Because yours is gradual, it's through time. You have to look at the photos and remember what happened. I was there, so even if I don't look at the photos, I'll still remember what happened. You need to go back and look at the photos. So yours is always external.
Yeah.
You have to look at the external factors that can help you build a case for healing. Is that tough? Is that easy?
I think it's very, let me say, it's tough, especially because we have to hack through it. Because you see, my lack of having a father in my life influences how I relate with the opposite gender. Because now that makes me, at some point, you see, I might be afraid of, okay, let me say, a while back, I'd be afraid of being left, yeah? Because you see, that's something that is already a reality in my life. So I know if you leave, you won't come back. And that's not a healthy way of relating with other people. But I think even for the healing journey, because mine is, as you've said, is something that is just continuous as a process, is coming to terms with my emotions. Because you see, one of the disadvantages I had at that point, I didn't know what I was feeling. And no one could tell me, this is what you're feeling. Because now you see, when you're a child and you've lost someone that is close to you, there's no one that will actually come to your place, like fit in your shoes, however tiny they are, and tell you that this is what has gone on, this is how you are supposed to be feeling, this is how you are feeling, and this is the way forward. So you see, most guys will actually just release you into the world and allow you to hack through it so that you can be able, like now later on, come back and process. But now, learning that for healing to actually occur, you'd need to be present in the moment so that you can be able to actually go through those feelings, go through those emotions at that point. Then you're able to heal a bit faster than you would have if you had caged those emotions knowingly or unknowingly.
So how then are you processing your loss day by day? How do you do it?
Day by day, I think is just number one, you see, one of the things I believe that most of the things that happen to us or most of the things that we are in are usually mindsets. That's why even the Bible says that when you're transformed, the first thing that is renewed is your mind. So just generally having my mind fixed on that, yes, I have this gap in my life, but there's something that is ahead that is greater. So it's for me to have my mind set on things above, my mind set on things that will bring healing even to me. Because you see, it's one thing to actually just sit here and say, Pasi, by the way, we need healing. We need, like, you're wounded, yes, I need healing, but I'll just sit here. But there's also the aspect of, yes, you need healing. You need to keep in touch with your emotions, because it's very important. You need to keep in touch with yourself. Because for me, especially as a person that is usually around many people, so I'm in touch with so many other people, but I also need to be in touch with myself, so that I can be able to actually know what's going on with me, how am I feeling about this day, and then now be able to push forward through that. So I think mostly for us, in healing is just taking that step every day to be in touch with yourself. And I say this as one that has been a victim most times, of just bottling emotions, because you see, that's the template I had when I was a child. So I'd just bottle emotions or just sweep them under the carpet, and then now when there's a whole heap under that carpet, that's when I'll come and remove things. But it's easier if you try and deal with it just step by step, and it won't be easy, but step by step you can do it. Yeah.
So there is a father's voice,
Yeah.
and then there is a mother's voice. Much of our lives has been the mother's voice, and trying to seek for a father's voice either through mentors or men who are around our lives, so that we can be able to fill that gap. But sometimes it's, as I mentioned in the first episode, that it is also hard to know how to receive when it comes.
Yeah.
And there's a part of healing where we seek to be healed and we are walking towards healing. But there are also gradual events in life that come to assist that healing or to complement that healing. And part of that is receiving people who can be able to occupy that space and give us voices of encouragement to be able to go forward.
Yeah.
How have you learned how to receive love or to receive the voice of a father from those that God has sent upon your life, with a view that it is very hard to receive, especially after you've waited it for a long time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's not, as you've said, it's not easy. Because you see, once you've been wounded somewhere, you'll be very careful, especially with anything that comes to it. If we say, like, it's a cut that you've had on your hand, whether you are just walking around or whatever you're doing, you will always be careful to shield it, so that you can be able to protect yourself from actually being hurt again. So I think one of the factors that has played in is there's always been a wall between me and even those guys that are trying to reach out and try to help. And
So this wall is because, is it because what triggers this wall? I know you mentioned about the fear
yeah,
of losing.
yeah,
And so that what that means is that you will not get too close to people because you know at some point they will leave.
yeah,
So it will be, the depth of that relationship will not be achieved because you have that default setting that that person may not be there for
Yeah.
another time.
Yeah.
So what other things trigger that wall to be there? You've talked about fear. What else can you see as a possibility of mounting up that wall?
I think you see, once you have a tainted picture of something, and whatever is being fed into you, especially right now in our society, and what you're looking around and the stories going on about fathers and what is there, guys being deadbeat, guys being fathers that are not present. I think most of the things that you just hear, others are abusive, others are present, yes, but are not like fitting whatever we'd call the perfect example of what you need to have. I think that's one of the things that has been one of the major things that plays a part in that there's that fear, yes, of actually letting someone in, but there's also the fear of, if I let you in, will you surmount to what actually I have a picture of, a faint picture of. Yeah.
So there's already a set picture or a set expectation
Yeah.
of what you should be like.
Yeah.
So I have a script of how you should behave.
Yeah.
And if you don't play according to that script, then I will not go deeper in my connection with you.
Yeah.
And you see, that even falls even in terms of how we relate.
Yeah.
And how we extend ourselves to the people who are close to us. When we were going through premarital counseling with my wife just before we got married, we were actually taught about we discussed a lot about the scriptings. These scripts come over time because there's already an engraved image of how that person should be.
Yeah.
And if you don't fit, so really it gets to a place where you're not married to a person, you're married to a script.
Yeah.
Because what I'm really attached to is a script. And the healing part of it is to allow time to draw away this script so that you can see the person. There is a way by which we can look at people from the lenses of how we have constructed them in our mind to the place where we don't receive that which they needed to drop in our lives.
Yeah.
And that's very key even in terms of how we relate with people and the male figures in our lives.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Some people say that if you don't have a father growing up, then your mother will fit those two hearts. Do you agree with that statement?
I agree to disagree. Because I think there's the part that the mother plays, but there's also the part that the father plays. Because especially when it's in the growth process, there's that part of mom being the one that comforts you, the one that hugs you, the one that does this and this to you. But then there's also the part of the authority where the father has, with him being like, he's the one that helps you to stay put, the one that helps you to stay grounded in the things that you're doing. It's not to discount what the mother does, but I know each and every person that I have interacted with, that we share the same story, or their dad left when they were young or something like that, there's always a dad factor, because now that will explain, then if mom was sufficient on her own, then why do I feel like I have a gap in me? Yeah. So I think there's still that part that the dad plays, because it's also both sides. If you lose your mom, your dad will play a part in your life, but there's also that part in you that will always feel that mom would have done this or mom would have done this better. Yeah.
What is that one thing that, if you have a chance to speak to a young person who is in that same state, processing the loss of a father figure, from the experiences that you've gathered, I want you to pick one item that you'd like them to be keen to, that which you have leaned on over through this time.
Allow me to use a recent experience. Recently, I'd gone to buy a pair of shoes for hiking. And most times as I've gone for hiking, it's either I have a problem with my shoes or they're just not fitting. So it will be a very stressful and strenuous hike all the way up. But recently when I went to buy those shoes, I could not look at anything about it. The only thing I was looking for in these shoes was comfort. So for that person that is in this same position, you see, there's so much that we lack, especially in our lives, and you keep searching and going deeper, looking just for that one thing. Yet, if I had looked at now the price, the other things that come to the shoes, like what I would, if they match my aesthetic, you see, as one of the things that is now in our times, if they will be comfortable, if they are waterproof. Because now you see, I just looked at the comfortability part. But once you look into yourself and see, this is a gap I have, this is me now, living a life without a father. But then there are other things in life that are my strengths, then I can be able to pull them closer to be able even to fill this gap that is there. Because the gap is still there. I didn't have shoes for hiking, but I did go for the hike with good shoes and they were comfortable, but I didn't look at the price, so my mfuko iliumia. So it's upon that person just to look at themselves and see, I'm in a space where, yes, there's a lot that is lacking in my life, or I see it as a lot that is lacking in my life. But see, we are always given a chance to be grateful for what is already there. And once we are able to make do with what is there, we can be able to fill at least some part of this gap that is there. Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of things that are key. Because when you set out to take a journey, you will need to put together the resources that will take you there.
Yeah.
It's part of planning.
Yeah.
And you're using that example of a hike, which can be a very important canvas in terms of how we go through this healing journey. I must have an intended destination of where I want to go.
Yeah.
But part of what you've said, which is also key, is that when you get to the shop and you need to buy, the first thing, because you know the extent of the journey that you're going to take, you're going to hike up the mountain, so you will need some kind of shoes.
Yes.
And comfort must be at the center of it, because it is comfort that will propel you forward.
Yeah.
But do you realize that the comfort is also attached to a high price? So there is a price that people pay.
Yeah.
And there is a price that you will have to pay along the journey of life so that you can be able to sustain that comfortability, which in our case we'll call the healing power.
Yeah.
And part of paying that price will be being able to come out of your mind and say that I want to uncover my life and see what else I have missed.
Yeah.
Or to come to a realization and through self-reflection and say that I am willing to go face the people who broke my heart.
Yeah.
Or I'm willing to lay down my unforgiveness so that I can be able to bring this person close to my life. There will always be a price that is attached to comfort.
Yeah.
But that comfort ingredient is important to be able to scale the mountains and the destination that I need to cover. There's so much to say in this first episode. By the way, I'll invite you again because you're very deep. But I want us to get to a place where we'll begin to wrap up. And I want us to mention two things and then we are done. So growing up, one of the commitments I made to you and my mom at that time is that I will do my best to offer a fatherhood figure to you and for her a system of support.
Yeah.
And I know this is critical because I know of a family who has lost a father, and there is a young man there who is looking at the mother and saying that we need a way forward out of this pain. There is a way that a young man can arise. You can never be a husband to your mother.
Yeah.
Neither can you be truly a father to your sister.
Yeah.
But there is a position you can take to be able to offer the requisite support that they need. How have you experienced that over time?
For me, it's been, as you've said, you've stepped up because you've been there to actually stand in the gap, like feel it and still help me move closer to being a better person, or actually to look at my life like one that doesn't have a lot of luck, but using my weaknesses as my strength. Yeah. Because one of the things that you did, I think I remember, as I was quite young, you were the first person that took me out on a date, a serious date. And from that point, I have a standard that has already been set. So whoever comes my way still has to go and live up to that standard. Most of the things that I even do, I think you're the first person I consult before making major decisions. And I think that has played in because of that relationship between us, that yes, you're my brother. Yes, we have that family relationship, but also you've been able to stand as an authority over my life. Because you see, you speak over my life as my brother and even as a spiritual authority. And that has helped me to be able to move forward in many things. Like challenges I would have, I just think, what would Maxie say about this? What would he do at this? And I think that has helped me to move forward, especially knowing that I am not alone, that there's someone that is there pushing me forward to be a better person, even as I continue to grow. So that has been my experience so far.
And doing all that does not separate the fact that there I'm also in the same experience of pain.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I have learned to do is that I can stitch the wounds of the people close to me while God is teaching my own.
Yeah.
That's one of the principles I
Yeah.
work with in my life. That I am open enough for me to be stitched by God and through people
Yeah.
while I use my left hand, because my right hand is my right hand of power.
Yeah.
So I have to connect myself on one side to God because I need it. But I also know that I have the requisite strength that I have received over time to be able to release it
Yeah.
to the people close to me. So the big brother or the uncle or the mentor who is listening to this episode and the young people who have felt that call to be able to stand in that gap, number one, you already have a default place of pain because you too have been wounded.
Yeah.
But the reality is that you can seek for healing as you try to heal the people
Others.
who are
Yeah.
close to you.
Yeah.
And the reason why I took you for that first date is because I never wanted you to get to a place where you look back and seek for a man to make you feel that you're enough by a simple meal. Because your worth and your dignity cannot be summarized by a dinner setup. You're more worthy than dinner. You're more worth than someone coming to pick you up with a nice dress and taking you to a full place that has a good ambience. That time will come, but before it comes, I know that there is a duty to be able.
Yeah.
So when a man comes to your life, you will not be moved by their grammar
Yeah.
and their eloquence.
Yeah.
Neither will you be moved by the experience of going out on a date. Neither will you be moved by their car. Neither will you be moved by the whole reality of what they hope to do for you.
Yeah.
Because the people close to you, the community close to you has done its best over time to be able to show you those possibilities, so that when you now get to a place of decision making and a man comes into your life, you will do it with a sober mind because the scripts have been drawn away.
Yeah.
And I think that's the power of a mentor or a big brother or someone that God positions in that reality to be able to draw out the scripts that might have been drawn over time.
Yeah.
Lastly, if our father was still alive today, or you had a 5 minutes chance to see him alive, just for 5 minutes, what's the one thing that you will tell him?
Wow. What's one? I had a lot to tell you, but I think one of the things that I'd actually tell him is that he did me proud by giving me you. Yeah, because I think even us being able to move forward as a family, even to be able to move forward as myself, I don't think if he'd gone and had other children somewhere else, I don't know. But if he had other children somewhere else that I'd need to have as my support, I think looking around in the world, I'd still choose you to be my brother. So I think he also had a part to play in that. So I'd honor him for that. But also I'd tell him still continuing with his mathematical journey. Yeah. Because I think I took after him in that. So his legacy will still live on even through that which I can be able to do in the years that I am given by God. Yeah.
By the way, thank you for extending his legacy. Remember the time when I came home with a mathematics grade. I wasn't good in maths. I actually dropped maths in class 4, but I still did till form 4. Don't ask me what I was doing for those years.
Solving for X.
I'll actually be writing songs during maths class because I thought I would be a musician. And then they will bring these questions and say, find X. And I will wonder, why are we finding X? And X is just right on the paper. So I will circle the X and I will put an arrow there and say, here is X. And that was the end of my maths career. But remember when I came to my mom with a grade next to the last grade, and I said, I pray that we'll have some redemption in this family. And you came back with an A. And I think there was healing that came because I couldn't do it,
Yeah.
but you were able to do
Yeah.
it. So thank you for being an extension of his legacy.
But I think also
Yeah.
one of the things that we can see, even for us as a family that is journeying through healing, you might be weak in one space, I might be strong in that space. So once we come together, that enables us to move forward, that we can be able to fill each other's gaps, even before we go looking externally. Because you see, when you look externally, you're prone to getting something counterfeit. But once you look where you are, you can be able to see, well, this is me, this is mom, this is Maxie. Here are our strengths, here are our weaknesses. Where you might be weak, I am strong. So once I'm able to come in and feel that, then we are able to even have that strength as a family. Because, for one of the things that happens, especially in these times, is that everyone wants to be alone. I want to grieve alone. I want to go through this process alone. But once we do it together as a family, I think that's what becomes easier for us to be able to handle. Yeah.
So my weakness is your strength.
Yeah.
And your strength can come in form of a weakness to me.
Yeah.
But the exchange moment
Yeah.
allows us to go forward.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to close
Yeah.
this episode and just begin to usher and encourage everyone else who is in the place where you're mourning the loss of your father, that there is still a great possibility to heal. Please share this episode with someone who needs it. Subscribe to this channel and join us in this community as we journey together, because we know that healing is a possibility.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having
Proud
me.
of what you're doing.
Thank you.
Keep being an extension of his legacy.
Thank you. Thank you also for holding up others to come. Yeah. You're doing a good job.
We are trying. We are trying. Thank you.
Thank you.